Alright, 5th graders, so the last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the artist Kimmy Cantrell, and I probably already showed you this mask, but this is my Kimmy Cantrell-Inspired mask that I made a couple of years ago. It's made out of a slab, and then some other slabs placed on top of it. It's pretty abstract, like we talked about. My name is on the back, and so is the year. So that's one of the ones that I've made. I've got a few more examples from the past couple of years. These ones haven't been glazed, they're just plain, but that's kind of the concept that we're going for. So you're going to start out today, you're going to get a slab of clay, and you're also going to have a fork, which is going to be our scoring tool to attach our pieces together as we go, and then you're also going to have a needle tool, and you might have a metal needle tool like mine, or perhaps you have a bamboo one. They both work about the same. So when we get started today here, you should have your sketch beside you, and you're going to use that sketch and your piece of clay to kind of draw it out. And we want to work as big as possible. If I draw a tiny mask and then I try to add things to this, no, that's not going to work out super well. Alright, so luckily with clay I can just erase that, but I want to work big. So if I have a flat piece on the side of my mask, I'm going to use this side of the clay to help me kind of draw that out instead of having to cut it all out. Alright, so work as big as possible, take advantage of all the clay that you have. But so I'm going to use this piece, I'm going to use the side of it here, and then I think I'm going to use this side as well, and I'm just kind of using my finger to smooth it out a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. If you've got sharp edges and stuff, you're going to want to smooth those out of the clay so that when we fire it, it's not sharp and it doesn't stab you or whatever. But so I'm just smoothing the clay out here, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it come across like this, and then maybe it's going to come over, and then I think I'm going to have like a curved edge like that. So that's going to be the outline for my mask, and then I've got all of this clay still to work with. So I just drew that kind of lightly with my needle tool. Now I'm going to actually have my needle tool go all the way through the clay as I start to cut that out. Alright, and I just did that in one motion, but it might take you a couple more, and then I can kind of move this off to the side. Now before I forget, actually I'm going to take a little piece out of here too, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so I think I'm going to go like that as well. And I can use that piece later. And this is what I'm talking about. I've got some pieces kind of sticking up a little bit. My clay's a little off. So I want to just smooth that out and make it a little bit nicer. But I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to write my initials. And you're going to write your section on there. So 5P, 5T, 5H. And then maybe you want to put your the year that you made it on here as well. Okay, so I'm going to flip that back over. I'm going to take the extra stuff off of my needle tool, and I'm ready to get started. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my extra clay to start making some of my facial features and whatnot. So I think I'm going to turn this, it would make sense to turn it into a mouth, but that's not super fun, and that's not what this project is about. We're working with making things kind of abstract, kind of in the cubist style in a lot of ways. So I'm going to turn this into an eye. I'm going to go like that and cut it in half. I think I'm going to smooth it out. And then one thing I can do with my needle tool too, the opposite end is kind of flat there. So maybe I want to go through a little bit and give it kind of like a pupil. That might just make it a little bit more interesting. Alright, now I can't just stick this on here and hope for the best, because what's probably going to happen is it's going to be able to fall off. So I need to score it. So that's where that fork comes into play, and you might be sharing a fork, so you might have to do this with your needle tool, but you're going to go across one way and back across the other way. That's called scoring. It's going to kind of make it kind of like Velcro, okay? But I can't just stick that on there like that either. I've got to score wherever that piece is going to end up going. So that's what I need to decide, kind of. Alright, so I think I'm going to go like that. So I'm going to score this part, and then we're going to slip it. Remember the 3 S's: score, slip, which just means adding water to it, and then squish. And I just want to carefully kind of press that down, not so much that my shape gets all messed up, but enough so that it actually sticks on there good. Alright, so that's done. Now I've got this piece I could still use. Maybe I want my eyes to be pretty much the same. I think that sounds kind of cool. I'm going to do that. Or I could have cut something else out of this piece. And we're trying to use as much of this as we can, if not all of it. And if you need more, I can always get you some more. But we're trying to use all of our clay. If you want to share it with somebody else, you can. That's up to you. But I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going back and forth. I'm scoring, trying to decide where I want this other eyeball to be. Right there looks kind of cool. I'm going to score that part, slip it, and then squish it right on there. Okay, score, slip, and squish every single time you're adding something to your mask. Okay, because if you just try to stick it on there, it's going to fly right off and we're going to have broken pieces. Okay. Again, we need to make sure we're working big, otherwise if you have small pieces, they might be delicate, those might break in the kiln, or just break while I'm transporting them to the kiln. But be creative, so you could add things like additional details. You can add eyebrows, noses, mouths, whatever you'd like. I kind of like this one. It has like an extra little piece that comes off like that. So whatever you can come up with, you can go ahead and do. But that's how we're getting started. This is probably going to take us a few class periods, so at the end we're going to put this in a Ziploc baggie with our name in it. We'll put a piece of wet paper towel in there so that it stays nice and moist until next class period, and then we'll be good to go. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but that's how we're going to get started today with our mask.